welcome to back to Sodbuster Living, and we are going to be talking about more books for middle grade March. I have a stack here, and to be honest, I'm kind of surprised by the stack. I did not think I was going to get this done this week. And again, like I said last week, it involves a lot of early mornings and late nights, and the combination can bring on migraines and just yeah. Okay, so let's talk about these books. I kind of got interrupted, so I was saying not a good idea. It ends up with migraines and other side effects from lack of sleep. So again, in no particular order of what I have read, I'm just going to start with what I have on top and work my way down. Last time, the stack like this fell off my lap. So let's see how far I can get before we have a huge crash. That time, it was my daughter in the kitchen. All right, this is actually the latest read I have done, and so it'll be fresh on my mind. It's backwards. I'm just going to call it a trademark of this channel. We're weird, wacky, and fun. This one is 3 Times Lucky by Sheila Turnage. Okay, I'm going to start off and say that as with I think this almost all the stack, I actually do not remember any one of these books not having this problem, and it is, why is there language in middle grade books? This is a time when children are growing up, everything is changing for them. Why do we need to say that it's suddenly acceptable to do this in our books that we're reading while we're already going through all these changes? Keep it the same. Even YA still kind of bothers me a bit, but especially middle grade. We do not need it. All that aside. All right, so this one started out really slow. It is written in a kind of like an autobiography form of Moses LeBeau, who is a female that was washed up as a baby on the North Carolina river bank. She was found in the arms of someone that we know as the Colonel. And then years later, what she does is she sends messages in a bottle to her mother to basically come get her. And we open up the story with someone getting murdered the next town over. And this deputy Star is, it's full of stuff like that, y'all. This deputy Star is trying to find the murder and how it might be connected to something here in the town. The Colonel lives with, or not in a sense like that, but he lives with another woman who is known as Miss Lana, and they kind of help raise Moses LeBeau. And so then we have this murder, so it kind of makes the town a little nervous. And then we have another murder. And so now Moses LeBeau and LeBeau and her friend Dale are going to open up a detective business and solve this crime. This story is filled with so many funny things. I was cracking up. Even the murder was something I would totally be okay with my kids doing. It is not dark like the Egypt game was. I could handle this a whole lot better. So it was hysterical. It was so much fun. The only thing that I could see other parents having a problem with is she has a crush on Dale's older brother, Lavender, and is constantly talking about marrying him when she grows up. It's kind of fun. It's lighthearted. Again, you know how I am about those. I've talked about them in other reviews. I had no problem with this. It was kind of sweet and the kind of thing that I'm like, this is, if kids are going to go forth with this kind of thing, thank you, author, for handling it in this way. So I actually really enjoyed that, and I did not think I was going to. I'm going to say this is a 4-star read. And the reason I give it 4, not 5, if compared to like The Little Princess, I would highly recommend The Little Princess over this. And so that is kind of, if I have a really difficult time trying to figure out my star ratings, Johnny Tremaine, I would recommend that over this. I would recommend Witch of Blackbird Pond. So when I'm really kind of struggling to figure out what star rating, I kind of base it off of books that I've already given 5-star reviews to. 4 stars, maybe 4.5. All right. The next book, I actually finished this yesterday. When You Reach Me by Rebecca Stead. Again, this one was very choppy to begin with. I actually had a really difficult time trying to figure out what is going on because it is told by our main character, Miranda. Miranda's rights kind of plays into this somehow, some way, and it's kind of a funny story. Miranda is writing a letter of how these events happened by someone foretelling what was going to happen. And so she's writing everything down because this person told her to. And again, it's all just choppy and you're not really sure what is going on. And it's about Miranda. Miranda ends up seeing her friend get bullied. And after that, their friendship, her and her friend, Sal, their friendship is really rocky. And it's to the point that she just has some deep struggles with trying to feel like she fits in anymore. And in all of this, she meets some other children, and then these like series of circumstances start happening that have been foretold to her. You have this crazy man that you're not really sure what his story is. You have 2 other friends, and we have a little romance type of thing going on in here that I kind of rolled my eyes at. Definitely not handled the way that I think 3 Times Lucky did a much better job. As I get further on into the story, things start clicking and I start seeing what's going on. And the Wrinkle in Time plays a part in this. And I knew what this, I don't think I'm giving anything away because if you've read Wrinkle in Time, then you start seeing when she's talking about this book that she's read over and over and over multiple times, you start knowing what it is. Now, actually, I have never read Wrinkle in Time. I just know the whole story and premise and certain things that have happened in it because my daughter has read it and talked with me. It's another book that I want to read one day. So all of that to say, I finished this book and loved it. I was so surprised. I thought that Rebecca Stead did a fabulous job in doing what she's trying to do. You have a mystery in this one. You have a mystery in that one. They fit the mystery category, but this was really well done. So if you like Wrinkle in Time, you'll probably be completely okay with your kids reading this. Again, there was the language thing. Her mother has a boyfriend, but he doesn't have a key to the apartment. There's nothing else there that, outside of here they are in a relationship. The old coot in here, he's kind of weird, and there's a little bit of bullying. I honestly don't remember anything else outside that. I again finished that, was surprised. I really liked that, and I would say that was another 4 to 4.5 stars. It was kind of rocky at first, but once you get past that rockiness and then you start seeing everything kind of like just fall into place like a puzzle, suddenly the beginning makes sense and it's not quite as choppy. I also think that in this case, the author knew how she wanted to go with the story, but setting up the beginning of the story was maybe a little bit more difficult for her. That's my theory. We'll stick with that. Okay, another book I read was Julia the Worlds by Jean Craighead George. This is a book I thought I would love, and it's probably a 2.5, which, going on the average scale, like I've talked about before, if I have a 2.5 star, it typically gets bumped up using the average scale. So if you had like a 0.5, you would average it up to the next number. So if this is a 2.5 star, I would give it 3 stars. I might even say that this is a 1.5 bump to 2 stars. It's not that I hated it. It was okay, but I had some problems with it. Maybe the biggest problem was that it was such a disappointment. I thought I would love this book. It kind of has the same feel as My Side of the Mountain, which is one of my favorite books. Julia the Wolves is a little bit different, and Julie is running away from her marriage and she's going to go to San Francisco and live with her pen pal. Okay, that didn't bother me so much. I kind of figured she's young. I don't even think has had her cycle yet, her periods, her womanhood transition yet. whatever you want to call it. So honestly, this didn't bother me. It probably will bother some of you. And in Alaska, like, this is harsh. And so some of the details in here are harsh. And I think Jean Craighead George's ultimate, message weaved in here is survival of the fittest. It's a dog eat dog kind of world, or wolf eat wolf. And she's living among these wolves, and you have the dominating effect. And so she kind of works her way, but then she has a flashback in the middle of the story back to how she got here. And I think this is kind of where you see the similarities that Jean Craighead George is trying to do between man and animal. And she loses her father. He doesn't come back. She ends up going to a aunt, and then in that, you have someone come into the story that says, you have an agreement to be married with my son. So she goes to marry the son. The son is simple-minded. I don't know what the correct terminology is today, but he is not all there and mentally delayed. And again, all of this wouldn't bother me so much. The mother of the son, the mother-in-law, I guess, has her start working with parkas. This is what they do. Now we're part of the family, part of the unit. The father-in-law is a drunkard, and so some of that is kind of crazy at times. And they're all growing up in this, and her husband. And then, this is where I really had a problem. I mean, there's some grotesque things in here, but okay, we'll work through it. This is a harsh time. She's in survival, whatever. And then the boy comes home, her husband, and says, I was being made fun of today, and I'm not going to do this. And he forces himself on her. It more is into kissing, but the illusion is there that it's going to be more when he walks off in a huff and she runs away after that. And I just don't think I really want that to be taught right now to my kids. Maybe this would be better for a YA. I don't think I would do it as a middle grade. Actually, I would not do it as a middle grade. And then it goes back to her reflective, and now she's going to try to survive on her own. Anyway, when it comes back, it's kind of, I think, a full year cycle, and now it's getting, harder to do stuff. And then we have men that come into the picture and basically shoot the wolves. Now, I hope I'm not doing a full spoiler thing here, but there is going to probably be some spoiling to give you the full idea of the story. This is also book 1 in 3 or 4 books. Okay, so now at the last part of the book, it's divided into 3 or 4 sections. She sees men kind of basically killing wolves, and then she remembers that they're being killed to wipe out the danger, and it has to do with caribou and things like that. To be honest, I'm not quite sure that full story. Anyway, she sees danger. Then there's this whole scene with that. Okay, whatever. She finally gets to a town after trying to save these wolves from the human predator. And she gets to a town and she finds that she might be able to live with some family. And I'm being very vague here because I'm trying not to spoil the entire plot. She goes to that piece of family and she finds out that this family that she's been longing for, whatever tribe, is part of this whole, in a way they're kind of interwoven in the fact that they help kill these wolves. And she's done with mankind, she's tired of mankind, she's going to go back and live in the wild. And that's kind of how we end. So, okay. I mean, in some ways you get that with my side of the mountain, but it's in a different way. It's not just mankind, it's just how we began to live mankind. And I agree that the reason why the men were killing these wolves was pretty ridiculous and senseless, the same way we've done it with whales. And that does seem to be a theme within Jean Craighead George's, who was kind of like a pioneer for these type of things. You have Eleanor Stratton, she was kind of a pioneer behind women writing for nature. And then Jean Craig George is kind of writing for animal wildlife preservation type of thing. So, and she has this author has those themes throughout her books, but I don't know, this one just didn't, I don't know, it just wasn't the book for me. So anyway, like I said, it's probably like a 1.5, 2-star read. Okay, let's talk about 2 of Karen Cushman's books. We have a Newbery Honor and a Newbery Medal. This is The Midwife's Apprentice by Karen Cushman. Let me put that one aside now that I did all that. Let me start with this one, Catherine called Birdie. And in the back, it has this about the author. Karen Cushman is a long-time standing interest in history. She says, I grew tired of hearing about kings, princes, generals, and presidents. I wanted to know what real life was like for ordinary young people in other times. And then research into history and culture led to her writing Catherine called. So she wrote this one, and then she wrote The Midwife's Apprentice, which won the Newbery Medal. This one is about a woman in a more prestigious type of family who basically, this is a journal. This is her whole journal that she has given. She doesn't like needlework. She doesn't like being any of the feminine type of things. She's a young girl, still hasn't had any indication that she has grown into a woman. I should have used that with Julie. So, and then her dad being a lord, or because if her mother's a lady, he's got to be a lord. So it's a lord's daughter. And he is going to marry her off, and that's kind of part of this. That's kind of frustrating because you get some pretty grotesque stuff, but she's all out to make sure that it doesn't happen and has some funny antics in doing that. This will be a problem for conservative Christian parents. I can just tell you already, because it does have medieval terminology in it. So things that today we would say we should not say, they use, and it will be a problem. At some point she's trying to come up with a cuss word, and she's like, God's thumbs and God's ears and God's face, and so things like that. And I kind of chuckled. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have, but I did kind of chuckle. Anyway, this is probably, again, one of those 2.5, so 3-star books. It was fun. I did like it. I did enjoy it. I did like how Catherine Cushman brought in this medieval life and tried to show it through the eyes of Catherine. I'm trying to remember some of the things, because Karen did a really good job in bringing out some of the superstitions that they had, some of the ways that they worked out what they consider bad omens and things like that. So you get some of that. You get some of the disgustingness of it, I'll be honest. Medieval time wasn't a Victorian age, and you definitely feel that. I honestly don't remember. You get a few times where men end up, she's like, a woman's pregnant and they're wedding next month. You get some of those. So use at your own discretion. I don't really know how else to review this book, other than it's a really interesting look at medieval life told through Karen, who wanted to write just a more, what I would call, living book, very what life was like for these day-to-day peasants. And in that, I had actually already read this one. I had this on my shelf to read, and I already read it. And it's about this poor girl that's kind of getting passed around, and she's called Brat. She is found by a midwife in a dung pile, and this midwife is going to teach her basically how to be a midwife. And this midwife is like a witch, and you're not sure what this midwife is, her story is, but there's something there. And basically it goes through this whole book, and then she ends up being a midwife. Again, you get a look of medieval history, kind of more under the peasants type of thing, whereas Catherine called Birdie is more of a lords and ladies type of thing with a little bit of the peasantry mixed in. It's different than you get like a third person perspective, maybe like a second person perspective, where it's like someone is following her along. So that's that one. Again, maybe like a 2.5, 3 stars. So I did read that one. But I remember reading that and giving that to my daughter to read a while ago for her schoolwork. And then I was actually really excited to find this book at a thrift store. This is Onion John, and it won the Newbery Medal in 1959. It won the Newbery Medal in 1959, and it was the one that I've had in my Amazon cart forever. Everybody talks about how much they love this book. I didn't. Again, maybe 2 or 3 stars. I have a couple of tabs here because I have not reviewed it. One man, Onion John, he's different. He can't even talk in a way that most people can comprehend, but Andy can understand him, and I think this is told in the first person. Yes, I guess. It's told in the first person, so it's told from Andy's perspective, and Andy can understand him now. And it's not that he can understand him because he knows the secret language. He actually learns to listen to him differently than everybody else. Everybody's trying to distinguish sounds and pick apart the gibberish he's saying, but he says it in a way that suddenly Andy figures out how he's saying words and how to pick what the actual word is within this mumble jumble sentence. Sounds like me right now. And the whole idea behind the story is, again, he's different. Andy can figure it out, and then he becomes friends with Onion John, who is different than the town. And in all of this, Onion John does a lot of old, non-civilized type things that you would typically find back in the day. So he has like potions that he does to take bad spells away from people. He does rituals that will help the town somehow. Rain dances. So he's different. People look at him weird and think of him different. And Annie starts seeing, but he becomes a friend of him. And then like Andy's father becomes involved in him, and they're going to try to change John around. They're going to try to make him civilized. And that's kind of what this whole book is about. It is, should we really try to make everybody fit into a box? When they don't really fit. Not everybody fits into what we deem appropriate or civilized or anything. So that's what this whole book is about. It's just a weird book. It's not one I would definitely pick up again. And that's pretty much all I can say about it. Maybe a 2-star read. So I didn't hate it. I mean, there's books that I hate that I give 1 stars because I hate them. But that's all I can say about that. I mean, there's nothing here that I'm like, guys, you must go read this. There's some things in here that I'm like, some people really enjoy this, and I'm sure somebody here has really enjoyed it and has something connected to it. I have nothing connected to it. There's other books out here that kind of give the same, the same type of story in different and what I would say better ways. So I was kind of disappointed in that. And I'm really glad that I found that for 50 cents and didn't pay Amazon's price for it, which I don't think was that much, but it was more than what I wanted to pay last time I checked into the price of it. Okay, let's talk about this book. I have seen this everywhere. I was so excited to find this copy at Ollie's, and I read it, and it is a well-written book about a girl in Pakistan and kind of her whole culture there. And it has some language. It has some mean people. I don't remember anything inappropriate. So that's pretty much all I can tell you. It opens up where she can go to school. So you kind of have a Malala, that one girl. You kind of have her story wrapped in here, or inspired by Malala is this one. And she goes to school, and then her mother ends up having a baby, so she has to stay home and take care of the children, and she really wants to go back to school, and she really wants to be a part of that learning, that culture. And then an incident happens, and she's taken away from her family, and it's kind of, everybody is scared of this rich person in town that kind of rules the nest. and basically is not a nice person. And she ends up going to work for him. And it's kind of that story. It's just, you know, what are people like in different, how people are treated in different groups, kind of, you know, the same that we have here. It's just a lot more scary back there because there are really no rules or boundaries for some of the rich over there. So I really liked this book. I don't remember if I gave it 4 or 5 stars, but I really liked it, and it will stay on my shelf. So that's going to be it for the books that I read this week. And I hope you enjoyed last week's video. I will try to link it below for you. And so far as meeting challenges, let's see. I've got, pretty sure Julie, yeah. This one has illustrations, so it will work for that one. I have 2 mysteries here, so that works for that. One that takes place in another country, so that meets that. One thing is like what is made into a video, and I don't remember what the other challenge is that works with that. Would you like to say hi?
Hi.
What are you doing?
Nothing. You should say ooh.
What about you? You stick out your tongue? Say hello, Grandma.